I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here I am. It's like my whole world's been turned upside down and I'm just trying to keep my head above water. 5 years of marriage. I thought I knew her, thought I knew us. But that illusion shattered the day I came home early from my business trip and saw the messages on her phone. She told me she was working late that night. Said she had a big project at work and she'd be home around midnight. I believed her at first. I even called her around 11 just to check in and she sounded exhausted but normal. I was tired myself, had a long flight, a headache from sitting in cramped seats, but I never suspected anything was wrong. That was until I found the receipts. They were tucked into a jacket pocket I never normally look in, just a slip of paper with the hotel's name, date, and a room charge. My stomach sank. It was from a hotel she'd never mentioned, not close to where she claimed she was working late. I pulled out her phone because honestly, what else could I do? And saw the texts. There were dozens, but what hit me like a punch in the gut was a string of messages with someone named Mark. No, not just messages, flirty, intimate, downright disgusting texts. She told him she missed him, that she was thinking about him all day. They planned to meet up. Then I saw the pictures, her in a hotel room, half-dressed, little more than a revealing top and some lingerie. I swear my palms got so sweaty I thought they'd slip and drop the phone. I don't know what I expected to see, but not this. Not her, my wife, my partner for 5 years, saying she missed her boss. I kept staring at her words, feeling a mix of fury and disgust. How long has this been going on? Was this just a one-night thing, or had she been lying to me all along? I didn't sleep last night. The taste of betrayal is bitter, and it's lodged deep in my throat. I kept replaying everything, her excuse about working late, the times she seemed distant lately, how she'd cancel plans or be distracted. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was there, staring me in the face. This morning I confronted her. I made her sit down face to face. She looked stunned, guilty even before I could say a word. I remember feeling my fists clenched tight, my voice low but sharp as I asked, "Who is Mark? Why did you lie about working late?" She stammered, trying to come up with an answer, but I wasn't buying it. I told her I'd seen the messages, the receipts, everything. Her face turned pale, her eyes darted around like she was looking for an escape. I saw her lips tremble, then she finally whispered, "It was a mistake. I didn't mean for you to find out like this." That's when the anger started to simmer, but I kept my voice steady. I told her I didn't want to hear excuses, not anymore. That I deserved honesty and she'd betrayed that trust. I felt a cold, hard resolve settle inside me. I wasn't going to let this slide. Not like this. I knew I had to do something. I needed a plan, something to make her understand that her betrayal couldn't just be ignored or forgiven overnight. I wasn't going to let her off easy, but I also couldn't just walk away without weighing my options. As I sat there, I realized my mind was already racing. I had the evidence, yes, but what I needed was a way to make her see that this was more than just a mistake. It was a breach of everything we built. I knew this wasn't just about her cheating, it was about sending a clear message. I looked at her, trembling, and said, "You think this ends here? You think I'll just forget?" Her eyes filled with tears, but I felt nothing but a cold determination. This was only the beginning. I had to think about my next move, something sharp, something that would leave her with no doubts. And that's when I started planning. I wasn't just going to confront her and walk away. No, I needed something permanent, something she'd never forget. I needed her to see that her actions have consequences, and I was ready to make sure she did. But I hadn't fully decided what that was yet. I only knew I was done trusting her. And I'd make sure she knew exactly what that meant. After the initial shock wore off, I spent the rest of the day locked in my own head, trying to piece together what I was going to do next. The usual options, arguing, yelling, maybe even a tearful plea, felt hollow now. I knew I had to be cold, calculating. She had crossed a line and I wasn't going to let her get away with it that easily. I didn't sleep that night either. Instead, I kept going over everything. The hotel receipts, her secret texts, the way her voice cracked when I confronted her. My stomach was a constant knot, and my heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became that I needed to hit her where it would hurt most. I had to make her understand that I wasn't just upset. I was furious, betrayed, and humiliated. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. I started devising a plan, one that involved subtlety but would leave her with no doubt that I was serious. No more talking it out. No more trying to salvage something that was already broken. First, I gathered all my evidence, screenshots of the texts, the hotel receipts, the photos she sent. I saved everything on a secure external drive just in case. Then I made some calls, someone I trusted who could help me execute the plan without her suspecting. I wanted a way to catch her red-handed, publicly if possible, or at least make her realize I knew everything. In the quiet of the night, I spent hours mapping out my approach. I'd leave her a message, fake a business trip, and see if she'd take the bait. If she did, I'd be waiting, ready to confront her again, but this time with proof that couldn't be denied. I also knew I'd have to be careful, no impulsive moves. I couldn't afford to spook her. The thought of her cheating on me, of her sneaking around behind my back, made my skin crawl. I could still feel the rough sensation of her lips on her phone, her whispers to her lover, her fingers typing secrets I'd never known about. That's what pushed me to the edge. I wasn't just angry, I was determined to make her see this wasn't going to slide. The next morning, I called her at work pretending to be a client. I had a fake voice, professional but firm. I told her I'd need her to meet me for an urgent discussion about a project she'd been working on. She hesitated, but I could tell she wasn't suspicious yet. I felt a dark satisfaction creeping in. When she showed up that evening, she looked nervous. That was perfect. I kept my tone calm but stern. I want answers. Tell me everything about Mark, about the hotel, why you lied. Her face drained of color and she fidgeted, trying to speak, but words failed her. I watched her struggle, then pushed a little harder. Or do you want to keep hiding? Because I have everything. The receipts, the texts, the pictures. I saw her eyes flicker with panic. Good, that's what I wanted, to see her realize I was serious. I told her she had one chance to come clean, that I wasn't going to wait around for her to decide her next move. I planned to give her a choice, come clean, and maybe we could salvage something, or keep lying and see what I could do to make her regret it. I knew I was playing with fire. I was angry, yes, but I had to stay in control. I wanted her to feel the full weight of her betrayal. I needed her to understand that trust, once broken, isn't easily repaired, and I was ready to make her see that. I could feel my fingers trembling a little, but I kept my voice steady. You think this is just a little mistake. It's not. You crossed a line I can't ignore, and if you think I'm just going to forget it, you're dead wrong. She looked like she wanted to say something, but instead she just shook her head. I swear I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered. That's when I knew I had her cornered. The plan was set. Now I just had to wait for her to take the bait. Something told me she wouldn't be able to resist the urge to lie again, to deny everything. And when she did, I'd be ready. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "You're going to regret this, one way or another." I stepped back, my mind racing with the next moves. I wasn't just trying to get even. I was making sure she knew I was done trusting her. This was just about her cheating. It was about ending this chapter once and for all. What I didn't realize then was just how far I was willing to go. But now I was certain of one thing. I was about to make her see exactly what betrayal costs. The days that followed were a blur. Every hour felt heavy with anticipation, like I was waiting for the inevitable crash. I stayed quiet, letting her believe she was still in control, but I was quietly setting my trap. I had to be precise, calculated. My plan wasn't just about exposing her. It was about making her feel the pain of betrayal without turning her into a victim. She needed to understand she had pushed me to this point. I knew her habits pretty well by now. She's the type to check her phone constantly, to keep her defenses up when she's nervous. I started planting small clues, tiny things to make her suspicious that I knew more than I was letting on. I texted her from a burner number, pretending to be someone from her office, asking about her plans, just enough to keep her on her toes. I wanted her to think I might be catching on to her, that I was everywhere and nowhere at once. One night I told her I was out of town for a few days, just to see how she'd react. I left my phone in my car, turned off so she wouldn't get suspicious. That's when I began to notice her slipping up. I'd see her glance at her phone nervously, or she'd hurriedly delete a message when she thought I wasn't looking. Small signs, but enough to confirm I was on the right track. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. I sent her a message, a fake offer from someone claiming to be a friend of Mark's. I made it convincing, with details only I could know. The message asked if she was free that night if she wanted to talk. Her response was immediate, an excited, nervous reply. That's when I knew she couldn't resist. She was going to meet him again, even after everything. I kept calm, watching her from behind a closed door as she prepared to leave, her heart pounding visibly. Her hand trembled as she grabbed her purse, and her eyes darted around the room. Like a thief on the run, I sat quietly in my chair watching her slip out the door, feeling a strange mix of anger and satisfaction. I had her cornered. I was ready to confront her again with everything laid bare. But this time she wouldn't deny it. No more lies, no more secrets. I waited an hour, then followed her. I kept a safe distance, enough to see her arrive at the hotel. Her face was tense, her lips pressed into a firm line. I watched her go inside, then pulled back to assess my next move. I needed her to see that I wasn't just some fool she could brush aside. The moment I'd been planning was approaching. I'd set up a hidden camera in my house, a small, almost invisible device I'd installed earlier that week. It was pointed at the main hallway, where she'd pass by. I wanted to capture her coming home, her reaction when she realized I knew everything, when she saw that I'd been one step ahead all along. When she finally returned, her face was flushed, her eyes darting nervously. She looked like she'd been caught in a trap, and I felt a rush of satisfaction. I met her at the door, cold and calm, even though my heart was pounding. Surprised to see me back so soon, I asked, voice even but sharp. She froze, her eyes wide with panic. I was going to tell me what? I cut her off, stepping closer. That you're sleeping with your boss, or that you're sneaking around behind my back. Her lips quivered, and she looked like she wanted to say something, but I didn't give her a chance. I pressed play on the hidden camera's footage. The sound was clear, her voice, her footsteps, her nervous glances. Then her entering a hotel room with Mark. Her face crumpled as she watched herself on the screen. I saw her flinch, then finally whisper, "I didn't mean for you to find out like this." I let the video play for a few seconds longer, then turned it off. Her hands were trembling now, tears welling up in her eyes, but I was already done pretending to care about her justification. "I saw everything," I said coldly. "You lied to me for months. You cheated on me, and then you lied about it. I don't know what kind of person does that." She looked at me, broken and helpless. "Please, I didn't want to hurt you. I don't know, it was a mistake." I shook my head slowly. "No, it was more than a mistake. It's betrayal, and you're damn right I'm angry." I paused, feeling a strange calm settle over me. "I've made my decision. You're out. I want you gone by the end of the week." Her eyes widened. "Please don't do this." "Too late for please," I interrupted. "You made your choice, and now you'll face the consequences." I turned away, feeling a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I had the evidence, the proof, and I was ready to make her leave for good. There was no turning back now. As I packed her things that evening, I thought about the years we shared. All the memories, good and bad, faded behind this one moment. I knew I wouldn't forget, but I finally understood that some betrayals can't be forgiven, and I wasn't going to be the one to keep pretending. Next, I'll tell you what happened after she left, and how I managed to seal my decision with a final act. That evening, I watched her pack her bags with slow, deliberate movements. Her hands trembled, and her face was a ghostly pale. I saw her struggle, the shame, the regret, but I wasn't going to give her the comfort of my sympathy anymore. I handed her a box of tissues and simply said, "Put your things together. I want you gone before sunrise." She looked at me, her eyes glossy with tears, and said, "Please, can we talk, just for a minute?" Her voice was cracked, fragile even, but I didn't want to hear the please anymore. I'd heard enough lies. "No," I replied, voice cold and firm. "You had your chance. You chose this path, and I'm done playing your game." She tried to say something again, but I cut her off. "Get out. I'll call a moving company tomorrow. You've got no place here anymore." Watching her leave that night felt almost surreal. Not relief exactly, but a strange clarity. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally taking control. of my life. I'd spent years building a future with her, but now I saw the truth. I'd been blind and I'd been betrayed. The house was eerily silent after she left. I sat on the couch, staring at the empty doorframe she just walked out of, feeling the weight of everything crash down on me. My stomach was knotted, my palms sweaty again, but inside there was a strange sense of liberation. I'd finally done what I'd been contemplating for weeks, confronted her, revealed everything, and made the decision to cut her out of my life. I knew I'd need a fresh start. I had to get rid of her stuff, clear my head, and move forward. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd left something behind, something unfinished, something that demanded closure. I realized that I hadn't just lost the trust of my wife. I'd lost the part of myself that believed in fairness, in honesty, in forever. The next day, I called a lawyer. I wanted to know my options, how to handle the house, the finances, everything. I also told a close friend what had happened, just to hear another perspective. They told me I'd done the right thing, cutting her loose, protecting myself, starting over. But inside, I still felt that gnawing emptiness. How do you rebuild after betrayal like this? As I sat there going over the future, I realized I needed a final act, a definitive move that would make everything official, something to close the door on her forever and remind myself that I was still in control. I decided I'd hand over the keys to the house, change the locks, and file for divorce that very week. No dragging it out, no second guessing. I took a deep breath, feeling the cold air fill my lungs. I grabbed the house keys from the table and looked at them for a moment. The weight of the metal in my hand was oddly symbolic, heavy, unyielding. I knew this was the last piece tying her to my life. I stood up, walked to the front door, and handed the keys to a neighbor I trusted to handle the process. "Here," I said, "please take care of this. I want everything finalized. I don't want her coming back or for this to drag out any longer." They nodded, understanding the gravity of what I was doing. I felt a strange sense of calm as I stepped back, knowing I'd finally sealed my decision. The house was no longer her prison. It was just a memory I was leaving behind. Walking out that door, I realized something important. The betrayal hurt, yes, but what mattered now was taking back control. I'd lost a lot, but I'd gained clarity. I'd rebuild, one step at a time. In the end, I learned that sometimes the only way to truly move forward is to cut the ties that bind you to the pain. No matter how deep the betrayal, you have the power to decide your next chapter, and I was ready to write mine anew. Weeks went by after she left. The house felt emptier than it ever had before, but strangely, it also felt lighter. I threw myself into rebuilding, focusing on my work and pushing away the lingering thoughts of betrayal. Still, every so often, I'd catch myself staring at the empty space where she used to be, and a wave of anger would come rushing back. I knew I couldn't just move on without addressing the core of what had happened. I needed closure, something definitive. So I decided to draft a letter, something I'd leave her to read when she finally realized what she'd thrown away. It wasn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It was about making her see the depth of her betrayal and how I refused to be a fool anymore. I sat at my desk late one night, typing with a steady hand, my words precise and cold. I wanted her to understand that her actions had consequences, that I was done being the forgiving husband. I put everything into this letter, every feeling, every piece of anger, every ounce of disappointment. I didn't hold back. Dear her name, I've spent weeks trying to process what happened. At first, I wanted to believe it was a mistake, something you regret and fix. But I see now that it was a choice you made to betray the trust we built over 5 years. You lied, cheated, and for what? A fleeting moment with Mark. You threw away everything we had for a secret affair that meant nothing in the end. I paused, took a breath, then continued. You've broken our vows, shattered my sense of security, and made a fool of me. I hope it was worth it, because now I see clearly. You're not the woman I thought I married. You're just someone who let temptation and selfishness rule her. I don't want anything from you. I just want you to know that I am done. Done forgiving, done pretending, done with the lies. This house, our life, it's over. You made sure of that. I'm reclaiming my life and I'm moving on. Not because I want to punish you, but because I refuse to be a victim of your betrayal anymore. You lost me, and I hope, one day, you realize what you've thrown away. Goodbye. When I finished, I folded the letter carefully, then placed it on the counter where she'd find it. I wanted her to read those words and understand that I wasn't just walking away from her. I was walking away from the whole betrayal. It was my final act of reclaiming myself, sealing my decision. The next step was clearing out the last remnants of her existence in my life. I sold the furniture she'd picked out, donated her clothes, and returned her belongings to the storage unit where I'd hidden the worst of her things. Every step felt like shedding an old skin, a necessary release to start fresh. I also changed the locks on the house, severing any lingering ties. I didn't want her coming back, not even to gather her remaining things. I handed over the keys to a trusted friend, instructing them to keep everything secure until the divorce was finalized. I wanted no room for doubt or second chances. Then I scheduled the divorce proceedings, fast and clean. I didn't want to prolong the pain or give her any false hope. I just wanted everything over, done with, so I could truly move on. I knew the pain would linger for a while, but I also knew I'd come out stronger. That Saturday, I went to the courthouse and filed the papers. The process was cold and procedural, but it gave me a sense of finality I desperately needed. I signed the documents, handed over the keys, and walked out with a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. But I also felt a surge of empowerment. This was my life now. I was in control again. As I left, I looked back at the courthouse, and a small, bitter smile crept across my face. I had lost something precious, yes, but I had gained clarity, strength, and a new beginning. Sometimes betrayal teaches you what truly matters: yourself. Now I'm focused on rebuilding what I lost, one step at a time. It's not easy, but I'm finally free from the illusion I once believed in. And honestly, that's the best revenge I could have asked for: reclaiming my life, my dignity, and my peace. The final lesson: sometimes the only way forward is to cut your losses and walk away. Because staying isn't strength, it's enabling. And I refuse to be anyone's fool again. Now that everything's done, I finally feel what I've been missing: peace. The house is empty, but oddly it doesn't feel hollow anymore. I've cleared out the mess, both physical and emotional, and I've learned a few things along the way. Mostly, that betrayal cuts deep, but it also reveals what truly matters. Every day since the divorce has been a mix of relief and reflection. I've started reconnecting with friends, taking long walks, and rebuilding my confidence. It's strange how much a betrayal like this forces you to reevaluate. I used to think I was strong, but I didn't realize how much I'd been holding onto a false sense of security. Now I see clearly. The only person who can truly protect me is myself. Walking away from her was the hardest thing I've ever done, harder than I thought it would be. But it was also the best decision I ever made. I realized that no betrayal, no matter how deep, is worth sacrificing your integrity or your peace. I don't dwell on what I lost anymore. Instead, I focus on what I've gained: clarity, strength, and a fresh start. Looking back, I see those red flags I ignored: her distracted mood, her late nights with excuses, the subtle changes I dismissed as stress or work pressure. I see it now clearly as a warning sign I should have heeded sooner. But at the time, I was too trusting, too willing to ignore the signs for the sake of the years we shared. That's a mistake I won't make again. What I'd tell anyone in a similar situation is simple: don't ignore your instincts. Trust is everything in a relationship, and once it's broken, rebuilding is almost impossible. The pain might feel unbearable, but sticking around out of habit or hope only prolongs the hurt. Sometimes you have to walk away to save yourself. And here's the truth I've come to accept: betrayal, as painful as it is also a wake-up call. It forces you to reevaluate what you really want, what you deserve. I learned I deserved honesty and respect, things I'd been willing to overlook. No longer. So I moved out, cut ties, and now I focus on my future. I've found a new job, I've reconnected with old friends, and I'm working on myself. The scars are there, of course, but they're fading. I'm stronger for having survived it. Every uncomfortable moment, every sleepless night brought me closer to a new understanding of what it means to value myself. To anyone who's reading this and going through something similar, know this: it hurts. That's normal. But it also passes. Trust me, you'll come out the other side stronger, wiser, and more aware of your worth. Don't be afraid to walk away from what no longer serves you. Your peace is worth more than any moment of fleeting happiness gained from betrayal. And as for me, I'll keep rebuilding step by step. I'll learn to trust again, just not blindly this time. I'll remember the lessons, carry the scars, and be better because of them. Because in the end, the only person who can truly heal your wounds is you. And I'm finally doing that. The story ends here, but my journey continues. I walk forward, no longer a victim of betrayal, but a man who's learned to stand tall despite everything. That's all anyone really needs: strength, resilience, and the courage to walk away when it's time.